Hello, huge movie fanatic Nate, stopping on by. This time I'm coming at you to review a more recent horror movie. I don't know if you'd call this, I don't know what genre this movie would claim to go under, but I saw this relatively recently, and it's a relatively, recently released or not too old of a kind of a horror genre movie by the name of Hereditary. And I saw it recently and was relatively impressed for the most part with this movie. So obviously, being a huge movie fanatic and a guy who has a movie review channel on YouTube, I thought it was only appropriate I talk about it. So now, having seen it only once, I'm going to do my best to try to recount the movie. But it's kind of convenient because this is a movie, since it's relatively new and you may not have seen it and stuff. And also it's just because of certain plot points of the movie are just so like, oh my gosh, that I'm actually, a lot of times with older movies and stuff, I basically give the whole movie away and spoil a lot of stuff. This is going to be a rare kind of a review in the sense that I'm not going to spoil a lot of the stuff, so it just, it's just as well that I only saw it once and can't really necessarily remember all the details because I wouldn't want to divulge them anyway. So this movie was relatively, right off the bat you could tell, this movie was different. This movie doesn't play like the majority of the movies. I'd set this movie aside from kind of the, I don't know, just the plethora of just, the same kind of stuff that comes in movies over and over and over in any genre, but in particular horror now I really, really don't for the most part like. But this is a movie that really stood out to me because of its just, I don't know, it's a stylistic approach, to itself. Where a lot of movies feel like these days in any kind of genre, they just have to be so, quick cutting and fast paced and stuff. I found this movie refreshing in the sense that it really, really, really just takes its time to let things unfold. I think, the first shot, I don't know if the credits playing over the first shot or probably, but the first shot is really cool where it's just slow kind of just, I don't know if it's like almost a 360 or, kind of pan around a room, and then it gets to this kind of model dollhouse kind of thing and zooms in on it, and then by the time it gets into the room itself, they actually do a visual effects effect on this thing where then it becomes the first, kind of scene where actually we're zooming into a dollhouse, kind of a model room of this house and this room and stuff, and only to be, when the zoom in completes zooming in, only to be just a real room with a person in a real bed and someone coming into a real door. So that was like right off the bat I knew I was in good hands with this movie as far as just this movie being conceived and executed in a way that was really, really creative. In this movie, basically, the premise is, it should be said that Gabriel Byrne, I don't know how to say his last name, but I'll just say it that way, Gabriel Byrne of, Miller's Crossing and, whatever that Schwarzenegger movie was and all this kind of stuff. He's in this movie. It's kind of sad to see, an older version of Gabriel Byrne, but I'm going to call him Gabriel Byrne. I don't know if it's Byrne. That's, regardless of how you pronounce his last name, that's how I'm going to pronounce it. It's kind of sad to see him older, but, I guess that happens to all of us. Had a little bit of a gut on him and stuff. It's just like, oh, Gabriel. And then it features this other woman who I guess she's, an actress. I don't think I'd ever really seen this main woman who plays the mother in this movie. I don't think I'd really seen her in anything else. And it also, in her very first role, from what I can understand, I think in the credits it says introducing, it features the daughter of, this woman in the Gabriel Byrne character is really this kind of, visually kind of, I don't know, I think without saying a word that might be insulting, we'll just say visually has a kind of a unique face and kind of a perfect casting for this daughter. This daughter is just really creepy, and without spoiling too much, I will say that you don't spend much time with her character in this movie, and it's kind of a shame because for me, she was kind of, the off-settlingness of the character of the daughter was what really made the first part of this movie really kind of interesting. And once she no longer was a part of the movie, we'll just say, without spoiling details, I found, although she was kind of unsettling, I found the absence of her character once she departed, the movie, to be very much kind of missing the character, because for me, I don't know if she spends the first quarter of the movie or whatever, for me she really, I don't know, kind of was, although what she did wasn't really that bigger deal or whatever, just because of the unsettlingness of the character and stuff. Really, for me, she was kind of the standout part of the movie. So when she became no longer a part of the movie, for me, it was just kind of, it's suffice to say that the movie kind of wasn't as interesting to me as it was when she was in the scenes. But it's basically, if you've seen some of my reviews before, I don't know how many, like American Psycho, I think I reviewed American Psycho, and I really identify with movies. I really get a kick out of movies like this, and There Will Be Blood, and movies like that, and a lot of the later Paul Thomas Anderson movies and stuff. And I really like or identify with movies like this that have just really goofy, what you could call goofy, or just maybe psychotic, or what's the word for I don't know, just really goofy, what's the word? Well, I can't think of the word I'm looking for. I'm sure it'll pop into my mind. If not, oh well. But just, I really dig movies like this that have these really just kind of just offbeat, goofy, which I guess you could potentially, for all intents and purposes, you could really kind of call them crazy. They're just little unhinged and these kind of characters like this. And this movie is, I can't say full of them. I guess Gabriel Byrne character is really not. He's really not crazy. He's just kind of there. And you always find him reacting to what's going on. But this movie is about basically this family. They look pretty well off and well-to-do. I'm not exactly sure what Gabriel Byrne character does. I don't know if he's an architect, but regardless of what he is and whatever, they live in this relatively cool kind of house in the country or whatever, and have a daughter like maybe 11 years old or something, and like a teenage son, and the wife is, the beginning of the movie, well, before what I was saying is the wife is, I don't know what the hell, she's this model maker, she basically, she must be some artist or something who basically makes, miniatures about, that just are all about, I guess, her life, or, important parts of her life, or certain parts of her life. You find the character throughout as the movie goes on, just like making, even if things happen in the movie, you'll find her in the next scene or next couple scenes making a model that depicts it, and it's just kind of just this eccentric, that's the word I was looking for. You just find this character with this eccentricities and this eccentric kind of character, the mom character, just building all these models, and it's really kind of a cool plot point in the movie. You don't see a lot of characters that are like this kind of obsessive model builder, where they're building all these rooms and all these settings from their house or their life or whatever like that. So I think she must be, I don't know if she makes income doing this, or if she's just an artist who's going to doing this for a show that's coming up. There's some dialogue and stuff saying from some entity in the movie saying, based on what's happened in your life, we understand if this, the gallery thing. So she must be doing this for some art gallery or some showing or something. But basically, the beginning of the movie, it basically features this eccentric, model maker mom character's mother just died. And at the very beginning of the movie shows that her at the funeral or whatever, and I think in her speech or her eulogy or whatever the hell those are called when people talk at the funeral, this woman divulges details about her mother that become more important as the movie goes on, about being secretive and belonging to groups that are secretive and being secretive, obviously with her being her daughter and her family, and not really divulging anything of what she does. So that's the beginning of the movie, and as the movie wears on, it becomes more and more apparent that this is kind of like it's like a 21st century Rosemary's Baby. I think on the box it says something about a new exorcist, but to me it plays much more like a new kind of 21st century version of Rosemary's Baby than it does Exorcist, because there's really no, not really necessarily any, possession, kind of demonic possession necessarily in the way that happens in Exorcist. If it does happen in this movie, it's kind of, I don't know, it's not as, don't necessarily even know what's going on. It's not as overt as, the possession in The Exorcist. But like I say, I would definitely regard this more of a 21st century Rosemary's Baby than anything else, or than The Exorcist. But as the movie wears on, these events just keep happening, and you see these symbols, and her mom had this necklace and she's got this necklace, and you kind of keep seeing this symbol throughout I think the necklace is the same symbol we keep seeing throughout the movie, but you know, like I say, I'm not going to divulge or spoil stuff because, you know, if you do decide, you know, to see this movie, whether it's from, you know, my recommendation or just on your own, I really, really just don't want to ruin these certain plot points that are really just fun to behold as they happen on screen. So, you know, she's got this, as I said, this son, and this daughter is like 11 or 10 or something like that. And then, as I said, the daughter is really kind of off-putting. And one of probably the funnest thing about the movie, and it's unfortunate that her character is very short-lived and doesn't last very long into the movie, but it's hard to really talk about much more without, you know, spoiling stuff. But I think I can say. Well, yeah, I think without spoiling it, I can say that, you know, obviously as the movie progresses, it's a kind of a detective story in a way of this, you know, the mom character trying to figure out what's going on and what her mom, you know, what she used to do and she was keeping so secret. And if you've seen Rosemary's Baby, you probably understand what I'm getting at by, you know, obviously she ends up finding out that her mom was this kind of, you know, I don't know if she was like a devil worshiper or whatever the hell she was trying to do. And you know, and this woman, you know, having lost her mom, you know, comes in, tries to go to these group things where people have lost someone, these group meetings, and she ends up meeting this woman who teaches her about seances and shit. And I guess I won't spoil that detail either. So I guess basically at the end of the day, we'll just say that this movie is kind of this woman finds out about her mom's just whatever devil worshipping past and gets all entangled in that, and when the movie ends, that's pretty much all I can say without you know, ruining, you know, spoiling a lot of the things that I don't want to spoil. I will say for me, the first half, this movie is like 2 hours long. I find the movie, I think the movie is like at least 15 or 20 minutes too long. I found the first half to be much more entertaining than the second half. Like I say, a lot of that is just due to the fact that, you know, that daughter character, the unsettling, off-putting kind of younger daughter character doesn't last very long into the movie. And as I said, when she disappears, it's, you know, a lot of the kind of the fun of the movie, in my opinion, was with her character in it, and once she's gone, that I find the movie to be not quite as interesting. There's some really, you know, stellar performances by a lot of people in this movie. I mean, obviously this kind of the star of the movie is this woman who plays the mom, and, you know, really, really, you know, eccentric is the word, as I said, I was looking for earlier, and she does a fantastic job of really embodying this just goofy ass, eccentric / psychotic, you know, whatever the hell character this woman is. And I do, you know, for me, the weakest part of the movie, it was kind of a bummer because it started strong, and as the movie progressed, it slowly for me kind of got less and less interesting. And the last, you know, it being 2 hours long, for me, the last fourth of the movie was unfortunately kind of like the least interesting part of the movie, and the movie really, when it got down to the last, you know, 10 or 20, 15 or 10 minutes, it really, you know, kind of did the opposite of what I thought movies would kind of do at that point. Instead of like speeding up or whatever, not that I say, or, you know, should think that there should be rules necessarily for movies or movie makers. I just found that, you know, being, you know, almost, you know, at that point you're like an hour and 45 minutes into it, or an hour and 50 minutes into it, just reaching this kind of like slowing down even. It's a slow movie in general, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I like that about it. But then the last fourth of it or whatever, it just seems to even slow down more. So maybe it was the, you know, conscious choice on the filmmaker to make it even more uneasy. But I just felt like, you know, the movie was 15 or 20 minutes too long, and in particular the end stuff, you know, some of the end stuff where the son is just creeping around the dark house. Just, this is kind of like you find yourself yelling at the screen going, come on, damn it, just, you know, do the payoff or whatever. And I will admit that, you know, the payoff at the very, 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 very end of the movie is kind of cool and unsettling, and just without spoiling any details, this is really hard to review because I just feel like I don't want to spoil any details. Maybe later on, you know, or, you know, a year or two later down the road, I can do another review of this movie where I can spoil it. But at this point, I just feel like it's a movie that if you haven't seen and you might happen to see it some later date, I just don't want to spoil it for you because it's that kind of it's that cool, and the things that happen are just so they take you by surprise, and it's just like I don't want to spoil it, but I will say that the ending is kind of cool and unsettling, and the whole movie really has this fantastic unsettling feel about it. A lot of and I love how it's like photographed and edited and stuff in a really kind of minimalistic, almost Stanley Kubrickian way. So I really responded to the way the movie was constructed, and a lot of times even the sound, the music is more, kind of just in the background, just this like even over like scene transitions, there'll just be this like. I don't remember if it's just like this, this thumping or this hum with thumping, just kind of in the background, like, even, as a scene ends and another one begins, it'll just continue just to kind of be like just this foreboding, like underneath the scenes and stuff. So I was really, really, for the most part, impressed with the movie, and the first half was just like, oh wow, I'm going to buy this right away, and by the time the movie ended, I was like, I'll buy it later on if I can find it at a better price, because the last half or the last fourth of the movie doesn't do too terribly much for me. But even with that being, I hate saying that being said, but since I already started saying it, I guess I'll say that I'm going to be able to still go as high as 3 1/4 stars out of 4 stars for Hereditary. Just because I feel like as a viewer, we're in such capable hands. Like the conception and execution of this movie, I thought was really top rate stuff, and a kind of a style and a film. Well, it's not even shot on film. A movie making know-how that I thought, or a movie making style that I think is really, really more or less rare in the world today, and Hollywood and stuff like that, and in genre movie or any movie. I really dig this kind of slower pace style and eccentric characters and just scenes that just are just so kind of goofy that they just make you smile and laugh and stuff. And as I said, as a horror movie, I think if any genre were to be picked for this movie, it'd probably be called a horror movie. Not a lot of movies can affect me, but I will say this one, definitely kind of got under my skin and really, really kind of got to my emotions and affected me, a lot more than majority of movies do. Most horror movies and stuff you see, they don't even get, they don't even get in me at all, and don't do really anything for me. They're just, jump scare shit and just crap happening on screen with loud noises and stuff. Whereas this movie effectively did kind of get under my skin and made me go, oh wow, this is what people must experience when they get, affected by horror movies and stuff. That's kind of an interesting feeling. But I guess I pretty much said all I can really say without spoiling this movie. I would recommend it. I can't really say highly recommend it, because it's, for me, the last half or the last fourth kind of fell apart a little bit. But I don't know. I mean, I guess, tell you what, I guess the majority of the movie is good enough where I can say I highly recommend this movie if you can see it for free or cheap or whatever. This movie might even be worth a few more dollars to see than your average movie, because your average movie these days pretty much sucks. So thank you very much for watching this review, and as always, we'll catch you on the next one. Sure, I can't do it again. Oh fuck, I can't do it again. Sure, I did this massive, huge, fantastic one. I suppose I could just use that. Why do I look that way and not this way? I guess because I'm left-handed. Like when I'm disgusted with myself, my head will go that way. It never goes this way.